Good morning and aloha from Hawaii. My name is Jürgen Steinmetz, joining you from the World Tourism Network in Honolulu. And today we're going to go to our nation's capital, Washington, D.C. And we have Marikar and her group of tour guides showing us around and introducing us to the cherry blossom in Washington. So it's going to be a really exciting session. And for those that are watching us on eTurbo News or on our social media and wanted to be part of our group, it's not too late. Just go to worldtourismevents.com and you will find the cherry blossom session is our last session. If you don't see it under pending session, just go to past sessions. Sometimes it moves down there because of time differences, but you can still register and be part of our group. Other than that, it's a wonderful, beautiful day here in Hawaii this morning, and I understand the same is true in Washington, D.C., and I hope it's true wherever you are and joining us from today. For those of you that are not a member yet of World Tourism Network, simply go to wtn.travel and join us. Or what you can do now, we just activated it. If you subscribe to our premium edition for eTurbo News, where you can actually read us without advertising, and also get our premium content, we have an option to include your membership for the World Tourism Network. And we hope we can welcome you to our extended family very soon. If you wanted to get more information on WTN.travel, go to that website and you'll find our discussion that has been ongoing for rebuilding.travel. We're excited because we expect to join our reopening tourism initiative in the next few weeks, and we're going to go destination by destination where we feel it's safe to promote the reopening. So our members are encouraged to get back to us, let us know how things are in your neighborhood, and so we can consider. But without further ado, I wanted to welcome our good friend and head of our committee for tour guides, Marikar Donato. She's put this event together and she worked very hard. She sent me a message this morning, just 30 minutes ago. Make sure you be there 15 minutes early. So she has been all ready for us. And welcome, Marika. Thank you so much for putting this together. You need to unmute yourself, please.
Thank you, Jürgen. And again, thank
But
you
you're
to
still muted.
WTN.
Oh, no. There we go. I'm sorry.
I'm
You're
good.
not. You're good now. Sorry.
Okay. So again, welcome everyone to our friends from around the globe. As Jürgen said, my name is Mary Cardonato, and I am the head of the World Tourism Network Interest Group. And I head the tourist guide section of the interest group. And this is, I think, our 10th broadcast since last year. Now, I asked myself, I went to a park and I was just walking and I said, how did I get here 13 months later? And how are we rebuilding? I took this nice long walk, reflected how since 2020, our lives changed. It was the tiniest of things. An invisible virus began to slay people around the world and pushed us indoors. It closed our tourism and travel industry. It separated us, then murdered our friends and families. And yet, the tourist guides around the world stand closer together. Through this horror, heroes rose. The impact of the role of a tourist guide in rebuilding travel is an ongoing task and requires a lot of focus and dedication. Joining WTN forums enables one to share and receive stories from others and get to understand the value of a tourist guide in the tourism chain, to find our digital voice. There will not be a return to the old normal. But as we all take the vaccine, we can see a new normal of hope, life, and love. Our forum today brings a panel of trained quality interpretive guides who will reveal meanings of this gift that keeps on giving. Here to moderate us today is Mistral Anampa. Mistral, the floor is yours.
Thank you for Thank you for that wonderful introduction, Maricar. And as we move forward, the cherry blossoms are the gifts that keep on giving. And why? Please stay with us until the end. We will inspire happiness, renewal, and share the power of interpretation. For me, why I'm here today, it's because of the blossom has brought me a new beginning. As we people from around the world, we look forward to witness the blooming of these beautiful cherry trees, which inspires to build and keep saving memories around of it. As the cherry trees, like the cherry trees, my life transformed in this season. I got married to the love of my life, Jose, in the spring of 2017. And why we picked this season? Because of the colors of the blossom, as also what it represents, the new beginning, love, the symbol of fragility, to live life to the fullest, day by day. So we look forward for many more. Here is a very small clip that I want to share. And this, for sure, is very personal clip, and I hope you like I'm sharing this with you with all my heart, and I hope you like and feel how people around the globe come and gather, witness this moment of the blooming. As we see, we hope you to enjoy this this broadcast. Now, today I have the presence of a wonderful panel. They are an interpretive tourist guide. Each of them will reveal their stories. Without further ado, we will start with David Herb, who will introduce to us the gifts of the trees. David, unmute yourself and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Ms. Troll. I'm unmuted. Let me first share this video that we took down at the blossoms. Share. Play. Go back to the beginning.
Hi, my name is David Herb. I'm a Washington, D.C. tourist guide and one of Maricar's survivors. I want to welcome everybody from the WTN around the world. We are so glad to have you with us here today in our beautiful city, Washington, D.C. Today, our theme is about the gift that keeps on giving. What does that mean to you? Well, we have a panel of guides today who are going to talk about that theme, and the gift we're referring to are these blossoms that come forth from these Yoshino cherry trees, which were a gift from the country of Japan back in 1912. And they symbolize to us a new beginning, a transition from winter to spring, a transition from the pandemic to the tourist season again, because we as guides, and I'm sure you around the world, have been hard hit. But you know what? Look at these old gnarly trees with this rough old bark and these knots. They survived and they produced these beautiful blossoms. And I'm sure all of you are going to produce beautiful guides, beautiful tours in the future. We've survived, we've made it. Let's do it.
Now, if I can lead that. Okay. You know, the one thing I wasn't trained on. Okay, I think the video is going, is it not?
Yes, David, you're fine.
Yes.
Okay, let me tell you about my love and hate relationship with these cherry blossoms That may surprise you that I have both of those feelings. But in addition to being a guide here in DC, and fairly recently becoming a guide, for years I've been an Uber driver around Washington, DC. And these trees, when they blossom, attract 1.5 million tourists that come in that very short period of time, mainly to see these blossoms. It's such a beautiful setting. So you can imagine the nightmare that causes traffic-wise for me as an Uber driver. Let me give you a mental picture of the area. The city of Washington borders a very wide river known as the Potomac River. And along the riverbank is the National Mall. The National Mall is like a wide open grassy area that's 1.2 miles long. On the east side is our Capitol, on the west side is the Lincoln Memorial. North of the mall is the city of Washington. There's just a few streets that cross across that National Mall. South of the mall is the peninsula where the cherry blossoms are. So you have these legions of tourists, those who give up on parking near the basin, who are walking down through these few streets from the city through the mall, blocking intersections. And me as an Uber driver, when I get a passenger, like maybe 2 miles away, and they want to go see, oh, take me to the cherry blossoms, I'm thinking this is going to take like an hour and I'm going to make $10. So it's kind of like that's the hate part of it. But that hate part of it is so overwhelmed by the feeling you get when you go down there. I had the opportunity to go down there a couple of weeks ago and just let my senses take over, my sight, to be able to see just the beauty of the setting. The setting is around this lake that there's a map that you can see around that lake we call the Tidal Basin. The water from the river comes into that basin under one bridge and exits under another bridge. So they surround that. There's a magnificent memorial to Thomas Jefferson, who wrote our Declaration of Independence and our third president, and it's modeled after the Pantheon. And that memorial is usually the backdrop of many of our photos. So that adds to the beauty of the place. Then you let your smell take over. You can smell the fragrance in the air. You let your ears take over. You can hear the birds. You can hear the water lapping against the basin wall. You can hear children laughing. It's just such a joyful experience that it far outweighs the negative part of putting up with the traffic. The smart thing is just to avoid that traffic and don't drive. Ms. Straw, the floor is yours.
Yes. David, so why do you think so many people around the globe travel to see these particular blossoms?
They're nationally known, and it is the ritualistic start of spring here in the United States, when all of us bears who are hibernating come out of our caves and we come to see these cherry blossoms and rejoice in spring. And the things I talked about, just the setting of it, below the National Mall with the Washington Monument soaring above the trees in the distance, and the Jefferson Memorial placed there like at the south end of the pond. It just makes such a beautiful setting around that basin. There's nothing like it.
That's right. And if you have a visitor who has a special needs, how can the guide interpret the cherry tree?
That's a really good question, because I talked about using your senses. And of course, especially if somebody was blind, because the best part of being at the cherry blossoms is seeing them. That would be the sense. If you could have one sense, that's the sense you'd want to have. If you didn't have that sense, you would take the visitor, if you could, over to one of the trees just to feel how rough that bark is. Some of those trees are still original trees there's about 4% of them. Many of them died and been replaced, but some of them are very old. That bark is so rough. And then if you can just lower a branch and let them feel how delicate the blossoms are, and let them smell the blossoms, and let them take in the fragrance and the noises I talked about, the sounds, the beautiful sounds of the birds and things, you'd want to make sure they experience that.
Thank you for that wonderful story and presentation, David. So now I just want to point and share with the guests, we have the chat box. Please leave your comments, question. We will be monitoring it. Maricar will help me with it. So
I was,
as
can I
we,
say one more thing?
yes, David.
I was just wondering if anybody, like in their cities, Kathleen or Catherine or Leo, like if anybody here wanted to share like places in their cities that they take for granted, that they kind of find like too many tourists are there. There's an old baseball player in our country who once said nobody goes there because it's too crowded. So, and I wondered if there's anywhere other places around the world where people experience similar things. Anybody have anything to share? No?
Yes, yeah. This is Sarah. I live in Greenville, South Carolina, and we're one of 7 cities in the United States that has a river and a waterfall in the middle of downtown. And
Wow.
a few years, and it used to be surrounded with all these old brick buildings because there were many mills here where they made fabric because the water helped run the mills. And so they tore down a lot of those. Some of them they left and they've turned into different office buildings, hotels, whatever. But they also built an amazing abstract suspension bridge over the river and the falls. And so you can actually walk out and be right on top of the falls. And it's all year. It's beautiful, especially this time of the year with all of the trees that are flowering and everything. And so, yes, downtown Greenville gets very, very busy this time of the year.
That's beautiful, Sarah. Thank you for sharing it. We appreciate it. Now, Brenda will take us back to the origins, traditions, the food, and the roots. The floor is yours, Brenda.
Once upon a time, there was a very old samurai. He was so lonely. All his loved ones had died. All his military companions had died. His one companion was an ancient cherry blossom tree. As a boy, he had played in its branches, and now, as an old man, the lonely samurai found comfort in its shade. Then the cherry tree died. So the samurai placed himself next to the gnarled, dead trunk to commit harakiri, ritual suicide. That's when the samurai's spirit entered the tree and it came back to life. Now, the tree blooms every year on the anniversary of the samurai's death. That is just one of countless cherry blossom stories woven into every piece of Japanese culture. In that story, you heard how those pink and white blossoms called sakura of the samurai's death symbolize life and death. That is just one of countless cherry blossom stories woven into every piece of Japanese culture. I'm hearing a echo. In that story, you heard how those pink and white blossoms.
Brenda, can you share your screen?
Am I not sharing the screen? I'm so sorry.
Thank you.
I am so sorry.
Now we see it.
All right. Well, this was the view in which I told you that sad story of the lonely samurai. And in that story, you heard how those pink and white blossoms called sakura symbolize life and death and renewal. And they also symbolize love and devotion, friendship, and respect for ancestors. All of those powerful intangibles are rooted in the Japanese people's Buddhist and Shinto traditions that call for mindfulness. Be mindful that life is beautiful, glorious, and short. Japan's nobility began a tradition of cherry blossom watching, hanami, more than 1,300 years ago. The samurai followed, and the common people joined. Now, this is what the path of nature and the blossoms looks like this year. It flows from the very south of Japan, starting in January or February, and reaches the northernmost sections of the country before May. With global warming, unfortunately, the blossoms burst open sooner and are worrying environmentalists. But you know, Japan's cherry blossoms are synchronized with more than nature. In Japan, the school year begins April 1st. And Japan's fiscal year, the budget year, begins in April too. But let's get back to the blossoms. As they peak, it seems like every person in Japan has the same idea, the same goal. Let's gather under the flowering canopy for picnic parties with friends, co-workers, family. The popular spots are so jam-packed that people go out early in the morning, like 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning, and lay their blue or green mats down to save the day for an all-day picnic. And what a picnic it is. Some people pack homemade food, but many Japanese and visitors just pop into a supermarket and buy one of these hanami bento boxes. Now, in addition to sushi and pickles and all the things you would expect, you would also perhaps have some pink and white fish cakes called kamaboko. And a must-have is this specialty holiday dessert, which is sakura mochi. This is rice cakes filled with bean paste wrapped in a salted cherry blossom tree leaf. It's a specialty, I told you. Now, roasted meats are also popular. And of course, you have to have cherry blossom decorated beer, bira. So in the evening, all those well-fed families and co-workers linger and look up, because many parks illuminate the blossoms from below. And that's when the lovers make a point of finding romance beneath the lacy white blossoms that silhouette against the black sky. Poetic? You bet. Cherry blossoms are key players in so much Japanese art, including haiku. Now, haiku are little tiny diamonds of poetry. They have morsels of meaning that unfold like an origami. You may have noticed that a classic cherry blossom has 5 petals. I've picked 5 haiku, all written by the same man. Let's read them and soak in the universal truths symbolized in the Japanese cherry blossoms. The truths of life, death, renewal, celebration, surprise, warmth, friendship. Let's begin. What a strange thing to be alive beneath cherry blossoms. Never forget, we walk on hell, gazing at flowers. Cherry trees in bloom, warmed by a brazier, blossom gazing. Cherry blossoms fall, fall, enough to fill my belly. Under the cherry blossoms, there are no utter strangers. Thank you, my new friends, for joining me into this glimpse into the deep meaning of cherry blossoms in Japan.
That was a wonderful, that was beautiful, Brenda. Well done. So I'm curious now, what would you like to pack in your picnic basket?
Well, I always like any kind of mochi, but a friend of mine who grew up in Japan taught me to go to the blossoms in Washington, D.C. and take hard-boiled eggs and have an early morning picnic. So I would do that in her honor. What would you have?
I will definitely have some sweets. I love the sweets. And I'm wondering, Jürgen, what would you have in your picnic basket?
Oh, you don't want to know. I want to lose weight, and that's probably the wrong thing to do.
Maybe you can have a pickle.
Yes, I guess a pickle is probably okay, I guess.
Mary Carr, do you have something in mind?
Well, I would like to pack maybe some bananas. I love to eat bananas, and maybe a cookie.
Perfect. Christina is saying sushi.
Sushi, yeah.
What about Elena? Elena from Moldova. Elena, what will you pack?
Hi, everybody. Thank you, first of all, for the presentation. It was amazing. And the pictures and the emotion, I could feel all the emotion here. Like it was like very real. I would pack some sweets, I think. And I think they also have a sort of like ice cream, but I don't remember the name. It's a very specific ice cream, like a Japanese. I don't know the name. We had it here in Moldova, but I forgot what it's called.
That sounds delicious. What about you, Paul? Is he with us? Yeah. So we have the presence of Jim Carter. So what about you, Jim?
I would pack some fruit juice.
Now, Brenda, and if you were a cherry blossom, what would you be thinking as you look down to the crowds?
I think the first thing I would say is thank you for, whoops, is it sharing? No, it's not.
Yes, no, it's sharing.
It is? Okay. I would say thank you for admiring me and get your big feet off of me because there's so much foot traffic around that causes a problem in compressing the roots. And I'm trying to show you a funny picture, there it is, of something that was found underneath those poor, long suffering roots in Washington, D.C. Found a 4-inch high heel, ankle strap sandal, size 10 and a half, left foot. Did you leave it there? Did you leave it there? It's waiting to be claimed. And so that's something I would think if I was a cherry blossom, you know, pick up your belongings and don't step all over me. If in Washington, D.C., I think I would also say, oh my goodness, please protect me from future floods, because global warming is going to cause the tidal levels to rise steadily. And you can see in this photo how it's already lapping at the sidewalks next to the cherry blossoms.
That's right. That's right. So we should be so grateful to the Japanese for sharing their beautiful trees and traditions. Did the US give Japan anything in return?
Oh yes, we gave one of our native flowers. It's called a dogwood. It's also pink and white. It has 4 blossoms. A few years after the initial 1912 gift, we gave some of those, and they went all through the country and are now very popularly seen on the side of roads. But there's more. In 2012, on the 100th anniversary of the gift of the original cherry blossoms, our Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton, gave 3,000 dogwood trees back to Japan again as a symbol of dogwood diplomacy and, you know, peace across the world.
That's great, Brenda. Thank you for that. Because like the blossoms, tourism is a symbol of friendship and peace. So that is what we exemplify. So it is tourism and it is beautiful. You know, it's seasonal. It's seasonal, just like tourism. Very seasonal. Maybe Paul has an idea about the picnic basket. Mistral was looking for you, Paul. What would you find in your picnic basket?
You're muted, Paul.
Unmute yourself, Paul.
Oh, wow. I was down there on Monday, in fact, walking through the blossoms. I didn't have much time to stay, but if I was going to stay, I'd have a good blanket and a nice comfortable cushion and a cooler that has two cold bottles of beer, and maybe it would be Japanese beer that I'd be drinking. I mean, it's just an awesome sight, and it's so different from the normal sites that we show people in Washington. I mean, most of the sites we show people in Washington are built. They're man-made, they're woman-made, they're designed, they're structure, they're bricks, they're mortar, they're marble. And this is just this wonderful lady, as Elizabeth Skidmore, the lady back in 1912. I think she was a journalist for the National Geographic, and she convinced the First Lady, Mrs. Taft. I mean, I just think to take a monument in Washington, which is urban, to see that this is nature's monument, not any design by anybody famous. This is nature.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you. We appreciate it. And thank you very much. Well, Brenda, we have some echo. And so that was beautiful interpretation, Brenda. Well done. We loved it. Now we turn our attention to our interpretive guide, Melanie Laforce, who will portray Mrs. Marshall, a friend of First Lady Nellie Taft, as she remembers her friend. So, Melanie, unmute yourself.
Yes. So I was her best friend back in Cincinnati, and we went to school together. We went to the Norse school. Now, you may wonder, why isn't Nellie here? Well, Nellie told me that she doesn't like to make herself very prominent in the public eye because she has 3 habits that for women in 1912 were forbidden. You see, Nellie liked to smoke cigarettes, and that was forbidden for women. I don't smoke cigarettes. She also drank champagne, and that was forbidden. And finally, she played cards and gambled, and this was her secret. So she always sent people out into the world to say things for her. Now, this is her with her very, very famous hat, because she loved flowers and she loved parks and trees. And when we studied her at school, proficient in French, German, the natural sciences, English, and then she went on to study at the university in Cincinnati. I stayed back in Cincinnati and got married, like most women of my time in the early 1900s. But Nellie said at the age of 16, when she visited President Hayes, and that would be 1877, that she would only marry a man who would become president. And that she did. She married William Howard Taft. Next slide. William Howard Taft, which is the next slide. Then, before he became president and they were married, they went to the Philippines. And he became the governor of the Philippines. She was his wife, and she threw all of her heart into her job as the first lady governor of the Philippines. And this was important to her. She wore the traditional Filipino dress. She learned the dances, and she learned the language. And she also helped with creating an infant nutrition program. She really cared about the people, and the people felt this from her. And that came from an early interest in school for faraway cultures and wanting to understand how people live. Then William Howard Taft became president, and she became the first lady to ride in an auto car in the inaugural parade with her husband at her side. So what can you say about her?
And to really bring out the lemon flavor.
I'm getting feedback from someone. Is someone unmuted?
Yeah, please mute yourself, guys.
Please mute.
In the zest. And I like to add.
Septi, please don't unmute yourself because we get the background. Thank you.
Yeah, so that's okay.
I'm not unmuted.
So let's take a walk in the Cherry Grove with, we'll go together. I'm going to put on a very special hat, a magical hat that will take us to the Cherry Groves.
I remember Helen Louise Heron Taft, or Nellie, as we called her.
Yeah.
She was my best friend in school.
Melanie, we're not seeing a shared screen in case you're trying to share the screen.
Nellie was on the
Okay.
committee at the University of Cincinnati. She studied chemistry and she studied German. She was just curious about everything. And
There we go. Yes, now we can see it.
I think that would be the one most important thing in her life. Later on, when in 1877, her mother took the family to visit President Hayes in the White House, she changed. She's of a high spirit, she was, and she said she'd only marry a man who would be president. And that she did. She met William Howard Taft, or Will as we know him, and then they went on and he became Governor General of the Philippines. As the wife of the Governor General, she just took on that role. And in that role, she wore the native dress, she learned the native dances, she learned the native language, and she set up a children's nutrition program. And then the political winds shifted, and it looked as if William Howard Taft would become president, and that he did. Nellie rode in the car with her husband. She truly was a very active First Lady. She had entertainment 3 times a week in the White House. But her greatest legacy are the cherry trees. She loved flowers and blossoms and trees. And she loved music. So she set up concerts around the rim of the Tidal Basin so that people could come at night and enjoy the music. Later on, she worked with the ambassador to Japan. And trees were given from Japan as a gesture of friendship and kindness for peace. Nellie wanted people to come to a place, people of all backgrounds, and enjoy the beauty of the cherry blossoms. So on March 27, 1912, she and the wife of the ambassador of Japan planted by themselves 2 cherry trees, and then 3,000 more cherry trees were planted around the rim of the Tidal Basin. It was like a park, called Gudetta Park in Manila, Philippines, that she remembered that was so precious to her. This is the legacy that Nellie Taft gave us, the cherry blossoms.
So that's her story. And there's many more having to do with these very, very special cherry blossoms. And I hope you'll understand that when you have a love for something, that you can do many things in the world. There's one other thing about Nellie that's very special. In 1909, she had a stroke. She couldn't speak. She couldn't move her arms and her legs. And her daughter got her well. It was in 1912 that she herself, together with the ambassador's wife, the Princess Chinda, she planted those first cherry trees. So what I have to say is find inspiration to re-emerge, to go forward, just like Nellie Taft did. and be that bright light to many, many people throughout the world. Just as these beautiful blossoms do this for us, they give us that gift each year, each spring, for peace and for love.
What a beautiful. Yes, thank you, Melanie, for sharing your interpretation. And what important event in Nellie's life helped her to accomplish the things she did?
Well, I think the most important thing in her life was that she got a very fine education and she was curious and she went forward with what she learned. That education was important.
And why did Nellie Taft work so hard to have the cherry trees planted at the Tidal Basin? What was so important about the cherry tree ceremony?
Well, when Nellie was in Manila, Philippines, as the Governor General's wife, she went to a park called Luneta Park. And she loved this park because there they played music at night. And people from all races and all backgrounds and in all positions in life could stroll peacefully and listen to the music. And she was inspired by this idea. So she wanted to create that same kind of park. And she created East Potomac Park, which is the tidal basin and the area where the cherry trees are. And she got it. She understood cultures. She reached out and wanted to learn how other people from different parts of the world live. And she wanted to learn their languages too.
Thank you for your wonderful interpretation of the First Lady Nellie Taft friend. And as we move forward, in conclusion, as we close, we have John Grant, who has an inspiration reflection to share. John, unmute yourself, please, and the floor is yours.
Yes. Thank you, Ms. Strahl. I'm John Grant. I am the new tourist guide. I live in Virginia, we're very proud of our great tradition of trees, such as the dogwood. But every spring, I look across the river to Washington, D.C., and there are no more beautiful trees than the cherry blossoms. They blind you with their brightness. I'd like to share a few slides reflecting on what we've heard, and then with Ms. Strahl's good offices, we have a little video that we'll share with you about the cherry blossoms. Okay. Okay. I want to thank first Mark. Yes.
I'm sorry, can you play your slide?
Oh, yes. Thank you. Yes, I want to start out first by just recapping what Markar had said about, and others too, about the cherry trees being a gift that keeps on giving. And one thing you can take away from that, or I did, is no matter where you are in life, and we're in some really rough times right now, and we've been before and will be again, but we have the beauty of the cherry blossoms to carry with us wherever we go, wherever we are in our lives right now. Dave talked about the sensuality of the cherry blossoms. I was overwhelmed by all of my senses came alive when he was discussing that. But what I was struck by was his personal experience of the cherry trees as kind of an oasis of peace. And I thought about, if you're walking around the tidal basin where the cherry blossoms are, you can rent a paddle boat and go out and really enjoy, and you can really feel at peace, and the blossoms work their magic. But he also made another point. The cherry blossoms, I'm standing on the edge of the cherry blossoms around the tidal basin right now. As you can see, this is actually probably one of the busiest traffic areas in Washington, D.C. So, you know, another point, if you don't slow down and pass it by, you're going to miss the magic that these folks here were just coming over and just hanging out together underneath the trees. Brenda talked about things that transcend the sheer physical beauty of the trees. I mean, she talked about the haiku art. And with the Japanese, and with us too, anyone who holds the trees, lives with them, there's a deep sense of ritual in everything that you do. Here we have from heaven it descends like a sakura petal drop. Well, when you're walking around these trees, you feel like you're in heaven, and they inspire all kind of art from all over the world. This is a French Impressionist painting of our cherry blossoms. Brenda also talked about the lasting sense of friendship that they bring. This particular lantern here sits in our cherry blossoms in DC, but it's a sign of the lasting friendship between US and Japan. And the beautiful thing about the cherry trees is they outlast illness, and the US and Japan went through a terrible war, and yet our friendship has come out strong, tested, but stronger than ever. And that's something to be encouraged when we have tough times in our relationships. I'm really inspired by what Melanie had to say about Mrs. Taft. I wish I'd been able to see her when she was alive, because she sounded like quite a firecracker. But she was in that in her own right. But I was impressed by, as Melanie was talking, the power of the cherry blossoms inspired her, empowered her even further to be a crusader for the beauty of these cherry blossoms, to bring them over from Japan, to nurture them. And she's not just the first lady in the White House, she's the first lady of the cherry blossoms. And she's also the first lady of care for nature. One thing she would have made, our DC was founded by a Frenchman named Pierre L'Enfant. He did a great job building the city, but his big dream was he wanted nature to blend with man's urban architecture. And Mrs. Taft was able to accomplish that to a large extent with the cherry blossoms. She would have made L'Enfant very, very happy. As we can see, you'll see a lot of pictures of the Jefferson Memorial. It's just a natural focal point, but it underscores, yes, this is a beautiful building, but nature around it makes it even more beautiful. And I want to thank Mistral for sharing with all of us the beautiful image that she had of her wedding. And what a more beautiful place to be sharing it than in the cherry blossoms. But again, these are just artistic renditions. They don't do justice to the pictures of Mistral and her husband, but just the fact that the cherry blossoms, they inspire so many things, but particularly at this time of year, love, romance, and partnership, they make us feel alive again. Well, with that, we have some more to show of the natural beauty of the cherry blossoms, courtesy of Mistral.
Can you stop sharing so I can share this?
Yeah, there we go.
Thank you. All right, so.
I just have 3 thoughts I'd like us to think about as we leave this beautiful day. The first is to think of cherry blossoms. They're ambassadors to the world, just as we are, as tourist guides or whether we're not, that we bring out, the cherry blossoms bring out the best in our cities, but we can bring out the best of anything, the best of ourselves to the rest of the world, whoever we meet. The second thing is that the cherry blossoms have a brief life. It's a cycle of life and death, but they shine beautifully while they're alive. And like tourist guides, for other people, we really shine our best for other people. And we make the most of the time that we have in this world, however long that might be. but that's an inspiring thing when you see the cherry blossoms. And just lastly, like the cherry blossoms we just saw, it's their twilight right now. In fact, they're all starting to fall. I went there yesterday, but they weather the rough times and they come back. And that's a beautiful thing. And, you know, even when the blossoms have all fallen, we carry the gifts that everybody talked about with us. And that's a wonderful thing. And I hope that we can carry these beautiful memories, images, and thoughts and words with us as we leave today.
Thank you for a wonderful reflection, John. That was beautiful. So now I want our guests to write on the chat, or you can also unmute yourself because we have a couple questions for you and we want to hear from you. What one word of feeling or thought comes to your mind when you think of the blossom? Who can share with us?
What was the question again? It was muted out.
Yeah, I couldn't hear a question, or you can text it in the chat maybe.
Maybe if I could suggest, maybe we have a place where you can raise your hand. This way we don't have to unmute everybody. And then you can see, Mistra, let me make you a co-host, and you can see who's raising hand. And this way you can just ask that person to speak. Maybe this would make it a little cleaner.
Jalil is raising. Jalil?
Yeah, Jalil was raising his hand for a while. So go ahead,
Yeah.
Jalil. And I'll let you go. Mistra, you're co-host now, so you will see the hands on the right side.
Okay. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Hello to everyone. It's been really a nice presentation. I just went through it, the cherry blossom presentations by everyone. It's really fantastic to hear everything about it. I just want to quote a quotation regarding, the cherry blossom. They say that I want to do to you what spring does with the cherry trees. So it's a really nice quotation. And secondly, I was really wondering, I was just going through this cherry blossom history, that the cherry trees were donated by the Japanese government to the Washington in 1912. But I was just looking at Georgia. Is it a Georgia state in the United States? And they have more trees of Yoshino cherry. Is it a kind of cherry?
Yeah. Yes, Jalil,
So,
you're right. You're right.
And secondly, you were asking about the baskets, what basket you would carry. So I missed that. I would rather carry a basket full of mangoes. So thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Tell us where you're calling from. Are you a tourist guide?
Yeah, I'm a tourist guide from Pakistan. I'm a tourist guide from Pakistan, and I've been guiding since 25 years.
Wow, great. Thank you. Welcome. And we will keep in touch.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Halil. So now we have many answers in the chat box, so which is very exciting, your response. We see peaceful. So the question was, what one word, feeling, or thought comes to mind when you think in the cherry blossoms? So some of you wrote peaceful, pink spring basket, oh, okay, new beginnings, friendship, beauty, beautiful nature, always giving, serenity. Thank you, Christina. Beauty, and many others. So I have another question for you, which I'm putting on the chat. What can you do to be an ambassador in your daily life? So,
can I share something?
Yeah, introduce yourself, please, and where you're calling.
My name is Kisu. I am in Honolulu, and first of all, I want to thank all the presenters. It was great. And I also want to share something with you, that this presentation took me back to my childhood in Iran, because it is the New Year celebration that is a lot related to the blossoms around the environment, because it is the spring season, yeah. And we have a 2-week tradition of celebrating family and nature, going out, and the pictures from Japan. It was really amazing for me to see that we have so much similarity to share, and share the love, and let's fight, bring more peace and understanding for everybody, and look at what we have in common and not what separates us.
One beautiful, beautiful words. Thank you for sharing with us. We see in the group, in the chat box as well. It say, I am going to the Tidal Basin tomorrow morning for an inspire walk. That's so beautiful. This is from Stanjard. Get Stanjard. That was beautiful. Thank you. And our last question is, okay, so here it is. Give me a second. How do we help care for the nature heritage places in our countries so that the gifts can be enjoyed by future generations? How do we help to take care of those places? John, do you want to share with us? John, unmute yourself.
Sure. I'm unmuted. Thanks, Mistral. My answer to this is, as far as the cherry blossoms go, we have a lot of local organizations that need volunteers. Of course, they need donations. But another way is just telling people, who don't know anything about our cherry blossoms, a lot of the kids, visitors, just how much care and love that they take. We have a park service that takes care of them, but they always need more help. And just our trees, DC is a city of trees. So we need kind of really the grassroots help is just as important as anything that the park service might do. So I don't know, that's in the case of the cherry trees, but I think there are so many ways that we as volunteers, I'd be interested to hear what the rest of you folks think about ways we can take care of, how you take care of your country's resources of beauty.
Yes. And as we see, Sherry volunteer with the park service and teach at the schools. That's wonderful. Yes. So we have Halal, Nanji, appreciate the past to preserve it in the future. Now, I want to, on behalf of all of us, I want to thank you for visiting the cherry trees with us today. We hope that you find happiness in your day. Maricar, can you take?
Sure. So thank you again, all. But I have some questions for all of us about our industry. As the vaccine in the US, is now almost very well spread out, how do we come back to tourism? And I know we've been discussing this, Jürgen, through the forums that we've been talking about. What do we need to re-enter? And, what tools do we need? What skills as tourist guides? And one of my things was to build our digital voice, to develop or to find our digital voice. All of what you've done through the year, 13 months, has been incredible, Jürgen. Providing us this platform, this virtual platform to communicate to the world. and to give tourist guides a voice, because we have been the hardest hit in the industry and we will be the last to recover. So how do we emerge now with a new reality? We cannot go back to the past. What do we carry with us moving forward? Within 21 and early 22. How do we prepare for that?
And I think, Marika, this is an excellent discussion we should bring up in our phase of reopening tourism. Unfortunately, the entire world is not on one page when it comes to reopening. Some countries are farther. If you look at our country, the United States, if I look specifically here in Hawaii, our tourism is booming. We had 26,000 arrivals yesterday. Best times are 32,000, so we're almost there. And these are only domestic tourism. This is not only international because our borders are still closed. But the question is how do we guide tourism, the tourism industry, to see that tourism is really not the same as tourism was before. It's not only about mass amount of people coming to a destination, it's to enjoy a destination, understand the culture of a destination. And that's where tourist guides come in, because tourist guides have the experience to really help in this guidance. And I think this is the important role we as an organization can communicate to the powers to be in the regional and national tourism administrations to increase the importance of tourist guides in this process.
Excellent. So I'm trying to discover now what is the new vibe of the tourist guide. How do we begin the new reality? As we cannot go back to the old normal, what is the new reality for the tourist guide? New skills to learn, or retooling, retraining? Is it learning more on the digital part, technology?
I think, Micah, it's really all of this. And as I think we're all kind of different. The situation here in the US is maybe very different from what it is in Pakistan. Pakistan may not be open, now you can help me out here, but may not be as ready as we are when it comes to vaccination. Look at Africa. Africa maybe in the very beginning stages, because vaccine is now just becoming rarely available. So there are different scenarios, I think, when it comes to where we are. But altogether, yes, I think it's a retraining, it's a repositioning, and it's definitely getting a voice out there. Also, this voice needs to be loud and clear when it comes to talking to those that provide travel. I mean, tour operators, hotels, even airlines, and to educate them about the role a tour guide can actually facilitate in not only guiding a tour or tourist, but in guiding this industry in a lot of ways.
Yes, exactly. Elena from Moldova also, maybe you can tell us what's happening now, because are you open? Or if you can...
we are kind of open, but here in Europe in general, it will work like a passport for traveling. For those who are vaccinated, will have like a special document, pretty much. So right now everybody's on the list to get vaccinated or to get the test, but people, they already started to travel. So in the country that are next to them, not so far, but yeah, they're already traveling.
Do the guides have work now or not yet?
Well, last year we had actually a boom for tourism. Actually, people from Moldova were traveling in Moldova for the first time, because all the time they used to pick in the past to travel in a different country. But now, because of this coronavirus, they couldn't go anywhere, so they started to travel in Moldova. So we had to find new products, new destinations, to reinvent ourselves, I would say.
Good, right.
Yeah.
And Professor Snezak in Serbia.
Can I say something?
Sure.
I just want to, can I say something?
Yes, go ahead, Jalil.
Okay. I just want to say that though we had a very tough time, you know, we were expecting that this summer could be really a good one for us compared to the 2020. But again, you know, the COVID cases are increasing in Pakistan as well. So I have started virtual tours with some international agencies, but I know virtual tours are not, you know, alternative to the real tours. But we have to re-energize ourselves, and also we have to, you know, motivate ourselves that we can emerge, because we are the strongest pillar of tourism industry. Without us, tourism industry cannot survive, because we are the basic pillars and we are the basic root of this industry. So in my opinion, though our scenario is different from European countries or from the state, we have limited resources and we don't have that vaccination facility as well. But still, we are receiving very few international tourists. And secondly, Britain has, you know, closed its borders, and he also put, you know, a sort of ban on the Pakistani travelers, or those who are coming from Pakistan to Britain. So they have given a deadline to those who are traveling to Pakistan. But I hope maybe in 1 month or two, we will be receiving some international tourists.
Great. Wonderful. And so keep in touch with us, with the network, with this platform, because we will be communicating more and more, you know, for April, May, and June. Stay tuned. Watch this space.
Okay.
Lots of
okay.
You know, and Professor Natsana, in Serbia, I hear you have the vaccine to everybody now. I heard it.
We have, yes. We have, we vaccinated more than 30% of our population, not including the young people less up to 18 years old. And you know, we are open for all those who are vaccinated and revaccinated. So we have tourists from Israel, for example, because Israel is the first country in the world. They vaccinated, I think, something like 70% of their population. Then we have tourists from Russia start coming. But I want to say something about tourism in general in the world. I think that people were coming back home to their home countries because domestic tourism is booming, for example, was booming in Serbia and in all countries around. And because of that, tourist guides has to reinvent their knowledge, because a lot of tourist guides are taking tourists out of the country. And for example, in Serbia, many of them, they don't know very well about Serbia. So they have to have new knowledges of the country, and of course, a new knowledge about the present situation, because what was before and now it's completely different thing. Because now tourist guide has to take care about the tourists, about how can I say, if they are safe or they're not safe. And because of that, I think that education will be very, very important. Excellent. This year is still going to be domestic tourism. Right. And I don't think that many international tourists are going to go around. For example, the European Union, they closed their borders and they're traveling around the European Union maybe, but in their own countries. So because of that, tourist guides, they have to reinvent their knowledge. And I think that the most important is this networking. Jürgen, really thank you very much for this, as Marikar said, these 13 months. This networking is the most important, and we can we can discuss between us. We can see these presentations like today, which was excellent. And before, all other presentations were really excellent. And we have to reinvent our knowledge about our own country and about different countries. So I think that this is very important for us. Of course, in Serbia, we have a lot of tourist guides, and like all guides in the world, it's very difficult for them. But nowadays, we can see that there are some little bit more tourism, foreign tourism, than last year, but it's really nothing comparing what it was. Serbian tourists are going to travel a lot this summer to, for example, to Greece, to Turkey, to Egypt, to Cyprus. All those who are vaccinated and revaccinated. So there will be, outbound tourism. Serbian tourists, and because of that, some tourist guides will have a job, but I don't think that more than 20% of them will have a job. So what are we going to do with 80% of tourist guides who don't have a job? And they have to leave, of course. Mm-hmm. So it is very important for us to discuss about that as well.
Yeah. That's why we have to learn the technology, do virtual tours. Many of the guides now are doing virtual tours and get paid for it, generate revenue through the virtual world, because that's another source of income. Deborah is an expert now. Deborah, you are the expert of your walking tours from the Caribbean. Deborah, introduce yourself to the group.
Yes, hi everyone. I'm Deborah Grant. I'm coming to you from Bridgetown, Barbados, a very haze-covered island today because of the volcanic eruption in St. Vincent. We are currently covered, and it's just just after 4, and it looks as though it's about 6 p.m. In some areas, it looks as though it's nighttime. So this is quite an experience for us right now. The last time we had this was in 1979, so I was quite a child. But in terms of what we're doing as a country for the return to tourism, is that right now our country is about 22% of our population has been vaccinated, at least received the first shot. We should all be getting our second shot within a month or so. And so therefore, we will think about 22 to 23% of our population should be fully vaccinated by the end of May, early June. We are opening up our borders let me put it this way. We have put our protocols in place, our new protocols for the vaccinated and non-vaccinated traveler from the 8th of May. So depending on your status, what to expect when you're coming into the country. We have never closed our borders, but as you can imagine, we don't have our own airline. And if our major market of the UK and the US don't travel out, in effect, we are closed, but we are not closed as a country. And we know that the British are chomping at the bit to come back to the Caribbean and to Barbados. So we are putting everything in place on our end to manage that, what we are going to anticipate as influx. In terms of the cruise industry, that is definitely, we have started to reap the rewards of caring for the cruise industry last year. So now we are actually going to have some summer cruises coming out of Barbados. So we've been home ported now for a few vessels because of our generosity and our care during the early times of the COVID last year. So that has paid dividends, and we are really happy to be able to do that anyway. So we're looking forward. We're pretty much in a preparatory stage. For me as a tourist guide, in the meantime, I have started doing virtual tours, and it's interesting. And so I would share for those who are thinking about doing a virtual tour, just find something else that you wouldn't normally be able to tell your guests on a walk-in tour or on a regular tour. And that's what I've done. I've picked different areas that normally we wouldn't be able to walk to because they're so far apart. And I've created a story out of that experience. And those stories have been well received. and I'm doing one for children this coming Sunday. Well, not tomorrow, next week Sunday, hopefully. And again, that's going to be a different dynamic as well. So there are opportunities, and just so you can even think about it, when you do the tours, you can then record those stories and use parts of those stories as your promotion of what you do. So it was still, that virtual tour experience can still be paying you dividends down the line, whether you sell it as a short introductory tour, whether you put it on your website. So there's so much more you can do with that virtual tour experience. So that's what I've been able to learn and develop over the last year, besides meeting all of you wonderful people and being encouraged all the time by Maricar. Sometimes I think she might get a little, I feel a little slap coming on the wrist, but trust me, I am working and I'm always thinking outside, as someone said this morning, outside the building of what we can do. So just like to share that with you, and you can take, whatever I've shared and we frame it for your environment. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Deborah. If I can jump in there and just have a question. And first of all, stay safe in Barbados. Wear your mask. Now you have 2 reasons to wear a mask.
Yes.
And we've been following the story, and that's quite incredible what's happening in your part of the world. But
yes.
I'm talking about tour guides. What is your government, the government of Barbados, and specifically, I think you could probably speak for many island nations in the world, doing to protect the livelihood of tour guides? I don't mean necessarily financial assistance, but also to include tour guides into the infrastructure of how a tourist is traveling. So I know I can only see what I see here in Hawaii. Many times the big tour operators want to cut costs and they think we don't really need the tour guides. The hotels don't really see a need to find tour guides to do something unless someone has a specific request. And I think the tourism boards, it should be their job also to protect the livelihood of tour guides and make them part of the overall infrastructure. How is this working in Barbados? I'm just curious.
Very much the same as what you've said. I am new into the industry. I've spent 30 years as an accountant. So I'm very new into the industry, and I found it interesting that there's no formal voice. There's no united voice for tourist guides, and the concept of tourist guides being even a profession as such. We just have this thought that, oh, I can drive around and say, oh, this is this building, and that is that building, and this is this person, and this is what happened here. And we have always gone along thinking that is being a tour guide. So many times we've heard people making up stories about something just so they can give us, say something to the visitor. So out of that experience, I've actually been starting the conversation and with Mistral and Maricar to start an association where we can have a voice and represent have persons here who recognize the tourist guides as an actual profession and with training and with rights and all that. And as you rightly said, in terms of the big tour operators, they don't want that because they want to be able to say to a tourist guide, I'm going to give you $10 or $5 an hour to just take my guests around and say some flowery things to them, and that's it. So without recognizing their value, so things like that we are hoping to be able to work towards. I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of resistance from the big companies because it's going to carry up their labor costs if I tell people how valuable they are. So that is going to be quite a resistance, I'm sure. But I mean, we are valuable, so why not show our value and not demand, but let people know we are indeed valuable.
Yeah, that's exactly, I think, what we're hoping eventually to get to be helpful with World Tourism Network, because what we're trying to do is really give the medium and small size guides in the business a voice. And I'm not now attacking companies like the World Travel and Tourism Council or the UNWTO, but realistically, WTTC is representing the big guys. They're representing the Marriotts, they're representing the huge companies. Mm-hmm. And then there is UNWTO, they're on the government side, they're politicians. So who's really there to watch out for the tour guides, for example? And of course, there are associations in the tour guides field, but I think with an organization like we're trying to build, where we have different segments of the industry coming together, we can be of help. And there should be an advocacy program, I think Marika wants to work on to really get this voice out loud and clear. It's kind of like a union almost, you know, because really on an international basis. And I think this would be so necessary for tour guides. And as I said, I don't know a thing about Barbados, and I don't know how it is in Barbados. I'm fishing. But if I see it here locally or see it in other regions, there seems to be absolutely no protection to the tour guide. Tour guides are a luxury tool that is available, but it's not really part of the chain. And I think this should be something an organization like us could help to get this awareness out and push for this.
Excellent. Perfect. Yeah, we're with it. We're going to do it. Okay. So I think we're going to close now. I just have a quick announcement. On Sunday, April 18, and I'm still organizing this. It's going to be we're going to celebrate local cuisine. So tourist guides who are on this call in your region, in your area, in your neighborhood, if you have anything local cuisine, food or drink, we want you. We want to focus on you and celebrate you, because it is World Food Travel Day. World Food Travel Day on April 18. Okay, and we are celebrating that. So we need video clips of anything. You can invent your whole thing. Last year, I think, I don't know, it was pandemic, and I went to the shelter and Jose Andres was cooking, and I filmed it and I told the story because he was feeding so many homeless, so many senior people. I just love that, you know, that outreach, that he used food for the community. And it, you know, it was pandemic, it was April 18 last year. So this year, please, if you're listening to the call, you want to participate, I encourage you to participate. Anything that's typical of your region, your community, your state, your country, do it, film it. You can have a glass, the wine, you can talk about the wine, you can talk about food, dessert, you know, anything that you want to tell a story of. They're looking for that. So video clips we need. And then possibly I will organize again another panel, but you know, very, very international. And we will feature these video clips and people who can talk about it. So save the date, April 18, okay, for the World Food Travel Day, WFTD 2021. Thank you. And Jürgen?
Yeah, thank you very much, Micah, and thank you everybody for attending today. Wonderful idea with the food day. Food and tourism is so related. Food and tourist guys are so related. So there's a wonderful synergy. And I'm glad also that Professor Snesna from Serbia joined us, because she is in charge of our educational committee. And definitely, I think is a good way between the two committees to work together. When it comes to food, we have a very active tour guide here in Pakistan, Jolly, who has been now on a number of events. And what country would be better to showcase also a little bit in food is Pakistan. I love Pakistani food. So maybe that's something you wanted to get involved. But anyways, I wanted to wish everyone a nice weekend, nice afternoon or morning or wherever you are. And we're going to repeat this broadcast starting in about 3 or 4 hours in our live stream for the next 24 hours on eTurbo News. And then, of course, you can always see it on livestream.travel. And if you wanted to see what's up next, our next event is actually in a week from now. We're going to go to Britain, and we're going to have Visit Britain as a guest. So I encourage you to register for this. And just look us up at worldtourismevents.com. But for everyone else, have a nice evening. Aloha from Hawaii. And thank you again for everyone for being part of this important event.
Good job, everybody. Good job. Have a good weekend. Happy birthday to Mistral tomorrow. Mistral.
Oh, happy birthday.
Okay, bye, everyone.